telling everybody the good news of Corey the Joy, and I appreciate that.
She usually gets you there by preaching from across the top.
What's going on, y'all? This is Josh from Team Super Shoe, and welcome back to another episode of the Shoe Show. We are not talking about Chuck Taylor All-Star Wiz Khalifa Collection shoes. No, we are talking about the one and only shoe of NASCAR, Corey LaJoie. He's our guy. He is the Super Shoe. That's the nickname he got growing up, killing it on local racetracks. And I'm glad you guys are here. If you're brand new, thanks for coming. We sit here, we talk about NASCAR, we talk about Corey, and today we're going to be talking about the clash at the Coliseum from the past weekend, the good and the bad, and giving our honest opinions about it. I'm bringing on our buddies Grayson Wimbish and Sean Borger. Sean, we've had on, I think, a few times last year, a good friend from North Carolina. And Grayson, he somebody that I connected with recently. He lives out in LA. He wasn't able to go to this year's race, but he went to last year's race at the Coliseum. So kind of cool to hear the insights of what it's like to go to an event at the world famous Coliseum, and to hear his opinions on everything going on in the world of NASCAR. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us once again. We have brand new news. We are now on all the different, audio podcasts. We are now not just started on Facebook and now not just on YouTube where you get to look at me. But if you decide you don't want to look at me, that's okay too. You can hang out with us on the Apple Podcasts, the Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. So that's pretty cool. It's a big accomplishment. And I'm thankful that you guys are here and that you want to hear me talk. So I'm just a very blessed man that's running with the ball. So otherwise, guys, bring on my friends, Grayson and Sean, and let's talk about the clash. All right, y'all, welcome back. And we are here graced with the presence of good friends, Grayson Wimbish and Sean Borger. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Josh.
Yeah, man. Sean, how you been, man?
Doing great. Just a lot of work around here lately, and then racing with my dad still. Our season just started last weekend, so busy start of the year for me, but doing great. It's good to see you again, Josh.
Yeah, good to see you. So kind of brought you guys on to talk about some racing. We finally have a race to talk about. This past Sunday was the clash at the Coliseum, and I had a few topics I kind of wanted to go over and kind of get y'all's opinion on it. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, Ty Gibbs catching fire. We're still having fire problems with these cars, and he caught fire in practice. It's now been with every manufacturer, so it's not just like a Ford thing with Harvick, and it's now kind of spreading, and it's usually at a short track, so maybe it has something to do with the brake dust and all that. I don't know. Gibbs came out and said they didn't know what the cause was, at least at first on race day. I don't know if they've figured out since then now what's going on, but my worry has been that these guys are able to get out of these cars no problem, but my worry is that this is now, it's going to become a future problem where these guys are going to wreck and they're going to be stuck in this car, or maybe they, God forbid they broke their leg, or I don't know, whatever happens. And then they're stuck in here while now there's also flames. Cause like that race at the Coliseum, there was like a fireball that went across in front of Ty Gibbs. So, he's got all the fireproof stuff in his helmet, and he's fine, but it just is worrisome for the future. Kind of want to get y'all's take on taking all this. If you think it's going to get better or not.
Who wants to start? I can let him start. That's fine.
Well, I did read something this morning saying that the fire was not the same issue that they had last year. From what I read, it was a part that was installed incorrectly, which caused the fire with the door foam. So I'd like to think that they have the problem fixed that we were having last year with the fires. It is scary to see. Nobody that gets in a race car wants fire. The protection gear that we have and NASCAR has, it's only meant to slow down the fire, not to stop it. So it's horrifying to see any fire in a race car, no matter who it is, whether you like the driver or not. You never want to see anybody get hurt. So I hope it's behind us. I hope the installers of the parts kind of, I don't want to say got scared straight, but hopefully they pay a little bit more attention to the installation of the exhaust pipes, bolts, everything that needs to go on there properly. That way we don't have this problem in the future, because I don't want to see anybody get hurt at all.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was at a place on Lincoln Boulevard called LA Draft. And on Saturday, I was watching the practice rounds and I saw the car on fire. And it cut to that shot. And I didn't know. I literally started watching and I didn't know if there was someone inside of the car. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I mean, there was black smoke coming out of this stock. Is someone in there that they're trying to get out? Then thank God, the wide shot pans out and you see Ty Gibbs and he's just standing over there. I'm like, oh, okay, he's good, but it's terrifying, absolutely. And it doesn't matter. I know NASCAR fans. I learned this last year. They have drivers that they cannot stand, but at the end of the day, you don't want a repeat of Daytona in 2001. You never want that. So, yeah,
definitely. And so, other topics, the heats in the LCQ. Unfortunately, Corey did not make it through, and our guy, I don't know what to say a whole lot about that. They haven't had the short package put together since last year, and hopefully things get better. But man, it's a huge bummer. There's and then the race in itself, the first half was okay. The second half was just a complete wreck fest, and kind of reminded me of the Indy Road Course last year. It was just kind of a little embarrassing. Just there was a point, they had 16 cautions, and there was a point in the race where it took them 37 minutes to get through 5 green flag laps because none of the caution laps counted. It was all red flag. Another thing I found interesting is that Denny Hamlin once again got spun by Chastain, and he went afterwards and said that there's no repercussions for driving deep and wrecking people like that. And but it's like I almost feel like my theory from last year that these drivers are not they're not fighters anymore. Like I think that my theory is coming true more and more. Even a driver that's seasoned like Denny Hamlin, and they might play petty games and wreck each other or rough each other up on the track, but like they're not men anymore. So kind of bummed out. I was really looking forward to some fisticuffs after the race, and it didn't happen. And the race in itself, it kind of felt less of a race and more of just like a Hollywood show, because like it just wasn't NASCAR. Like you had Gwen Stefani in the production booth telling stories of like, well, last time I met Clint Boyer, he was shit faced on whatever party. Or you had Rob Lowe there, and they did an interview with him, and you could totally tell he had no idea anything about NASCAR. And it's cool to have the attention and have that glamour and spotlight, but I don't know, man. It was just it was a weird feel, totally different than what NASCAR normally does. And then of course NASCAR throws in Wiz Khalifa to do the halftime show, and it's so far out of the base of a normal NASCAR fan. And not that I don't think that we should be, singing, honka tonk, but onka donk. And, I don't think that we should be that stereotypical redneck sport because we're not, the sport has definitely evolved and people have changed since, 1960. But It's just, man, it's just a very different culture shock for NASCAR. And so I wanted to ask you guys, like, the whole package in general, what did you think about the Clash of the Coliseum this year?
It was glitz and glam last year. I saw I kind of laughed when I saw who was going to be performing. I didn't even know Wiz Khalifa performed. I saw that it was going to be Dixie D'Amelio performing. Who is that? I mean,
She was there too.
She got famous on TikTok, and apparently she sings now. So apparently she's a singing pop star sensation. So great, happy to have her in the building. Anytime anything comes to LA like that, you've seen it with a lot of different things. Like it's always going to be a spectacle, whether it's the Rose Bowl game or the Super Bowl last year. Oh my gosh. I mean, just everyone comes out and it's their agent gets them on the phone and says, hey, they're going to pay you $15,000 to go, walk around the trailers at the Clash of the Coliseum and sign some autographs and shake hands and kiss babies. And they're like, great. Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah. So, but yeah, I totally get it. And it makes me wonder what tried and true NASCAR fans what the perception is, if that makes sense. I can't imagine it's over. I don't know. It's a spectacle in and of itself, but there's part of me that thinks it probably isn't overwhelmingly positive in the community. I don't know. So.
Yeah, my buddy was picking on me yesterday. We have a group chat and we're all going back and forth from start of, the races to the main event. And I ended up being the negative Nancy of the group, and a couple of us were, but I was kind of outspoken on it. It's a lot to unpack what happened yesterday. I'm all for trying new things. That's the only way you can grow as a sport. But I also like to think, I mean, they're starting to try and attract people that have absolutely no interest in the sport, either good or bad or indifferent. That's what it is now. Corey LaJoie's day didn't end up as great as we all hoped it would, unfortunately. I think his, super speedway package is going to be amazing again this year. I'm counting on one race. I know he's going to win at least one race this year. That's my bet. He's going to win Atlanta. That's what I'm going for. He's going to be right in the hunt for Daytona. Let's go to the qualifiers as well as the main event yesterday. Qualifiers were a lot of fun, a lot of pushing, a lot of beating, banging, trying to get position. A lot of fun to watch. The main event, Josh, as you said, the first half of it was great. It was fun to watch. A lot of passing, jockeying for position. The second half kind of turned into a shit show a little bit. The cautions were getting a little insane. Like you said, what was it, 30 some odd minutes, getting 5 laps in? That started getting a little excessive, especially for those of us that have to get up the next morning. So, I mean, overall, it was a good race. Do I wish it was in LA at the Coliseum? No. I'm a big proponent of, using what you already have, or old tracks that don't have a race anymore, that already have the pavement. You're not spending the $1 million+ to repave a track once a year. That money could be spent towards sponsors or throwing it to the team, something. I just think that's a little excessive. That's my opinion on LA. But pardon me, North Wilkesboro, do it there. You're having the All-Star race there. There's Rockingham. I know they really want to have an event back, and that's close to a lot of race fans over on this side of the country. So there's a lot of places they could go to that already have the pavement. They may not be able to have as many fans there, but that drives demand, right? You don't have a lot of seats. You're fighting for that ticket. You want to get in there. Then TV, viewership is going to skyrocket because people want to watch that race. So trying something new, going to LA, it was great last year. This year it was kind of, all right, it's wearing thin. Maybe move it to another track that doesn't have a race anymore. That's my opinion on that. So a lot to unpack yesterday. There was a lot to handle.
For
Sean,
sure.
To your point, really quickly, I agree. Last year when I was physically there, the most fun part of the day were the qualifying races.
Yeah.
That's where all the action happened. And then you got to the main event and it was kind of like, this isn't as good.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because there's less drivers in the qualifying races and there's a little bit more space in that. Like, I don't know, but that's where I had the most fun watching. But the main event is just like, there's too much going on. I don't know. Yeah. So I'm with you 100%.
I also saw that on the tickets that they printed for this year, they had the start time as 8 o'clock for the main event, and they did post, on the tickets that the qualifier races were even happening. So you look in the stands, they're empty. That's the best racing, in my opinion. Like you were saying, Grayson. I mean, that's where everybody's going to beat and bang to try and get into that race. That's the fun thing to watch. The main event, fine. Everybody made it into the race, have a great time, but those qualifiers, man, I want to see people knock somebody's teeth in trying to get into that race. That's what makes the race exciting. So, and Josh, as you were saying, the manliness of the sport is severely lacking. I'm a firm believer in, you run your mouth, you're gonna catch a fist. Whether it causes a fine or loss of points, then you know what? Maybe you're teaching somebody a lesson. I'm going to admit I'm not the biggest Denny Hamlin fan, but maybe sometimes it takes somebody getting popped in the mouth. You run your mouth, guess what? Or you hit me when I didn't do anything to you. We're going to square up at the end of the race. Ty Gibbs last year. Hey, I'm not a Ty Gibbs fan, but watching him square up that was fun to watch. That's what this is.
Yeah, it's
spit and chew and going to blows because you did me wrong. That needs to come back.
Yeah. Plus, it's good TV.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Hey, you got to do the tape delay, so there's the cussing gets beeped out and everything, but that's what people want to see.
Yeah, and I mean, so to be 100% honest with you guys, last year I thought was a good race. Now again, Corey last year didn't qualify in. So this is not a very good Corey podcast today, but I enjoyed last year's race, the collective race. I thought it was a good race. I thought it's like old school Bristol. You can only pass on the bottom and that's okay. But this year, man, it's one thing to bump somebody out of the way, but man, it was just spin after spin. And now I am no professional race car driver. So I don't know how easy it is to bump somebody versus spin somebody. Maybe these guys are trying to just bump them out of the way, a bump and run, but I have no idea. But man, it was just very irritating as a fan. And man, I was not a fan of the racing in general. I feel like quarter mile is unless they start racing respectively again like they did last year, I just don't think that it's the size track you should have these big old stock cars on. They're just too big. A small strictly stocks or something that you'd see on a local track, that's okay. But it was, I don't know, not my cup of tea. And as far as Grayson, you were asking about what a typical fan would think. I actually did a few surveys today on my Team Super Shoe on Facebook where this is all started before the show even started, and got about 100 votes of like, what did you like the race? Was it great? Okay, are you gonna never watch the Clash again? Like what their responses was, and most people said it was okay. So and that's the group there. I feel like they're pretty usual NASCAR fans that have been fans for a while, because being a fan of Corey LaJoie, it's not like this is not a bandwagon by any means. He doesn't have one cup win yet. So he's an up and coming driver, and everybody that likes him is because of his personality. And more than likely they've already been watching racing for many years. I did ask what people thought about, if you were to able to change a Clash, where would you have it and what would you change? And most people really like the heat races. They want to keep that, so that's interesting. And they just did not. They wanted it to be in a normal track. And for the most part, some people wanted Atlanta and like a super speedway feel. Some people wanted short tracks. But I thought it was interesting that the heat races and all that is still something that people are interested in. as opposed to just qualifying for it, or back in the day, you had to win a pole. It was the Bud Pole Award, and you either are a winner or you're not in this race at all. You don't even have a chance. So it's interesting. And so, Grayson, we brought you on because you're actually out there in LA, in California, and we wanted to kind of bring you on, get your perspective of going to the race. Something I found before that I found online is that California has a ton of race fans, so much that I found the top 5 cities by the number of people interested in the sport. I don't know if this means the ratings on TV or what, but LA is number 1. Number 2 is New York. 3 is Atlanta. 4 is Dallas, and 5 is Chicago. And I definitely would not have put most of those cities into the top cities of, NASCAR fans. So, although the race last night wasn't sold out, it was noticeably, I don't know, maybe 70-80% of the crowd. But considering that stat, I was kind of expecting it to be a sold out big old, ordeal. And so, but Grayson, man, you went to the 2022 Clash. I kind of want to get your perspective because not a whole lot of people, at least in my circles, have ever gotten to go to that race.
Sure. So I'll tell you the story. First off, for context, Caleb Williams and the USC Trojans cannot sell out that stadium, even if they tried. I mean, I was at the USC Notre Dame game this year, Coliseum, and it wasn't sold out. And so I all things considered, last year the crowd was pretty sizable. There were a lot of people there, but my road to the Clash, how this happened was, a buddy of mine who I went to Virginia Tech with, he's a few years older than I am. He's an alumni of Virginia Tech. We kind of run in different circles or whatever, but he texted me out of the blue one day and he's like, Grayson, he's the biggest NASCAR fan I've ever met in my entire life. Like, this guy has been to every track in the United States, loves NASCAR, like absolutely loves the sport. And he texts me, he says, Grayson, I got a proposition for you. I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he says, well, there's going to be this race in Los Angeles, and it's called the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. They're going to put a NASCAR track in the Coliseum. It's in February. What are you doing? I'll buy you a ticket if you come with me and let me stay with you. And so he sends me the website, and I look at it and I say, oh yeah, this is awesome. Like, I gotta go to this, of course. So I said, yeah, man, book a flight. He lands Saturday morning, February 5th, I guess last year it was. And he and I just kind of diddy-bopped around town. We went to different breweries or whatever. We wake up Sunday morning, hop on the metro, go down to the Coliseum, and we spend pretty much all day there. We were there from probably 11 in the morning to 6 p.m. at night. I mean, because we watched every single qualifying race. We watched the main event. We watched Pitbull and Ice Cube perform at the halftime show, but it was so – I have never, ever been to anything like that. Like, I was at the Virginia Tech football game where we put a football field inside of a NASCAR track at Bristol Motor Speedway. So I felt it was only fitting that I go to where they take the NASCAR track and put it inside of a football stadium. But just it was actually my first NASCAR race. And it's a testament to the event. My buddy Clark, he said it is the most fun he has ever had at a NASCAR race. And he's been to, the Brickyard. He's been to Daytona. He's been to all these different tracks, seen all these incredible different races. And he's like, oh yeah, that was the most fun. Apparently not enough fun for him to come back for year number 2, but that's neither here nor there. I understand, flights to LA. I get it. It's not an easy thing to do, but we really did have a lot of fun. And I always tell people this: you can't get Busch Light in Los Angeles. Like, you can't find it anywhere. You go to the liquor store, it's not there. You go to the bar, it's not there. So last year, the tall boys, they just had them because Busch Light's the title sponsor of the event. And I'm like, that's all I'm drinking all day. So Busch Light, because you can't get it. So, but just all around, I mean, 10 out of 10 experience. Tickets did spike this year. I thought about going again yesterday, but tickets were considerably more expensive this year than they were for the first year they did it. But to any NASCAR fan, I understand the race, the result, the product might not be the best, but it's a spectacle. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed myself. So
That's cool.
that's kind of the story of how that all happened.
That's cool. Do you plan on going any races in the future?
I would, I'd love to see a race at Bristol. I really would, because I mean that race track was so cool to see. I mean, obviously, I saw it with a football field in the middle of it, and that was sold out. So I can only imagine what the race environment is, on a Sunday night or on a Sunday afternoon. And then, I've Clark actually introduced me to a guy he knows who is high up over at Vegas Motor Speedway and is also an alumni of Virginia Tech. And he said, Grayson, you ever want to come to a race in Vegas, you let me know, because we'll do it up. And you let me know. And so I gotta hit up Clark for that guy's contact information because I gotta take him up on that. Yeah, it's good. That's a good friend to have. But it was cool we were leaving and Clark, I guess, knows some of the people in production, who broadcast the races or whatever. And we're leaving and I think it was Michael Waltrip, and he's, coming out, and he had just finished up being on the broadcast team or whatever. And I'm like, dang, he's tall. like I just didn't expect that, but I'm like, he's a big dude, But it was so cool. I definitely appreciated it because, the Wood brothers, they're Hokies. I know their granddaughter, her name is, ironically enough, it's Grayson as well. She went to school with me. And so I was rooting last year for Harrison Burton, who, from South Boston, Virginia. My old man grew up with Ward and Jeb, knew both of those guys. And so, I was telling you guys before we press record, South Boston, those guys are the hometown heroes. Everyone knows the Burton boys. So, yeah, it was. I came to have a much greater appreciation for the sport. Absolutely.
Cool. So. Yeah. And as far as the Coliseum in itself, man, it's just that is such a iconic, cool place to have it. So if they never, as much as we're a little critical about the racing and the entertainment from it, it is super cool to have it at the Coliseum, to see the torch get lit up, and it's still a very cool thing. And it's a really cool stretch to see, NASCAR, the sport that's started off being, the Southern, redneck, old school racing, to now it's it has become, such a cool, it's cool to see it come full circle and become a big, a normal sport. It's a
sure.
Anybody can like it. And like I said, you gave you those cities. Definitely would have never said LA, New York. I would have never guessed a lot of those cities, because stereotypically, people that watch NASCAR are people that lean right, or people that, that are that type of person. But NASCAR has broadened so much. So it's pretty cool. And the LA Memorial Coliseum, now it was built in 23 as the veteran tributed building from World War I. And it was completely built in May 1st, 1923. So it's cool that it's 100 years old.
Yep.
It's had two Olympiads, 10 and 23, two Super Bowls, the first Super Bowl and the seventh Super Bowl, World Series back in 59. It's had 3 U.S. presidents visit it, and now it's had my sport come and hang out with it for two years. So
that's right.
That's pretty cool. So, and something that we saw this year that was new for NASCAR is they were testing having mufflers on a Cup car, and they're made by Borger exhausts, and I thought that was interesting because, man, a lot of people, like I said, there's still, NASCAR is still filled with a lot of the stereotypical guys, and they do not want you. Nobody wants you to silence those loud engines, and but they're only silencing them from the cars reach up to 130 decibels, and in pit lane and stuff, and the even F1s are around 130, 150 ish in decibels. It's only putting it down like 8 decibels. So it's not a whole lot. It's supposed to help with the fans. And I guess just when you go to a smaller track, I've only been to big tracks or intermediate tracks. So I don't know what it's like to go to Bristol or the Coliseum or anything like that. But it's supposed to help with the fans. And if I guess, in general, these guys, on pit road, if it's going to help them with their job, I'm okay with it. I found a few quotes here. Ross Chastain said that when they were testing these Borla exhausts, they said that he said, I had to go to a different ear mold for this past year, so last year, because the ones I had would not seal good enough. He was saying that because the exhaust comes out of the left side of the car now, not just the right side, it's both, he was saying that it hurt, that it was just too loud. I had to turn the radios all the way up. And I actually reached out to spotter of Corey LaJoie, TJ Bell, and asked him what he thought of, having these Borla exhausts now and kind of silencing it a little bit. And he said that he really doesn't think mufflers are going to make a big difference in his job. He says, the cars are louder than before, but there is only a handful of places that it's super noticeable. He says one being Martinsville. I think mufflers changes being made for the fans, and if that makes a better experience, and yes, we are moving in the right direction. Because I asked him not only how is it going to affect your job, but do you feel like it's going in the right direction for NASCAR? So I want to ask you guys, mufflers for NASCAR Cup cars, keep them
Sean.
or ditch them?
Sean.
Nope.
There it is.
Nope. I'm going to be the stickler. I stick in the mud on this one. Keep mufflers away from my Cup cars. I want nothing to do with them. They claim it's better for the people that live around the tracks, the LA Coliseum, and then they're going to be using them in Chicago. Well, if you don't want the sound, don't have the race there. Sorry, I know it's going to be an unpopular opinion, and people are going to probably laugh at me for saying it, but I don't like them. Don't want nothing to do with them, and the louder the better, in my opinion. I come from, told you guys in the past, I've raised watching NASCAR, been to more races than I can count. Drag racing is my family business, so the louder the better. I want to hear the car. When I'm in the stands, to me, it's all about 3 S's: sight, sound, smell. I want to hear it. I want to feel it. And you taking that sound away from me, whether it's only 8 decibels or not, that's only the start. Then you're going to go to other tracks and they're going to say, well, I want it quieter too because you're disturbing the people around us. So they're going to get even quieter. I'm sorry. That's a source of contention. One of the reasons my buddy was picking on me yesterday, because I said, nope, I don't like it. Too quiet. I know it's hard to tell over TV, but I'm not a fan.
No hybrids, no hybrid NASCAR for Sean.
You keep hybrids away from my sport. It's because I've been to more Indy 500s than I can count as well. And when I went as a kid, I mean, just like NASCAR, you could barely hear yourself think. It was so loud. I think in 2013, I went to the Indy 500. It's the first time I've been back in years because of the military. And I was bad about being a fan of the IndyCar. I didn't know they went to turbocharged V6s. It sounded like, pardon my language, it sounded like pissed off bumblebees going around the track. And I looked at my friend and I said, what the hell is that? What happened to the V8s? What happened to the sound of these cars? So to me, it's fearful that, NASCAR is going to go that way. Smaller displacement engines, turbos. Nope. Give me big block or small block, V8s and loud exhaust. I'm happy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts about last year, people would always talk about how just loud stock cars are, and I had never heard them in person. And I don't know what, just the acoustics of the LA Coliseum or whatever it is, just because it's that bowl shape. In the qualifying rounds, Clark had brought the splitters so we could listen to the radio comms, and that was really, really cool. But I'm like, no. For the first 15 minutes, I'm just gonna, no headphones, no nothing. I just want to hear it. And it's, you talk about being able to feel it too, just like the power of those cars. And they start going around and they're just revving. I'm like, this is badass. Like this is so freaking cool, man. Yeah. So like, I'm with Sean. Yeah, keep it loud. Yeah. LA's a loud city. If people have a problem with it being loud, it's like you shouldn't have moved to LA, or move out of LA.
Now,
when me and my buddies camp in the infield of Darlington every year, when the Cup race starts, or when any race starts, whether it be Xfinity, trucks, or Cup, you can't hear anymore. You kind of have to do hand signals to each other to, get your point across to people. But that's what we enjoy. That's why we go there. When you start robbing people of that, again, that's the experience to me. It makes you feel like a man. It makes you feel like, race car. I want that feeling. I want that smell. Give it to me.
Yeah.
Inject. My buddy Chris says, inject it into my veins.
Inject it into my veins. Great.
I bought a candle once that's supposed to smell like burnt rubber or fuel. It doesn't work, but that's one of my. That's.
I'll go to my dad's race car. We got a big ball of rubber that we have. I'll send you some rubber. You can just hang it from your rearview mirror.
Perfect. Yeah. That's one of my favorite things about NASCAR races is the smell of the burnt rubber, the fuel, and the loudness of it. It's the sensory. It's totally different than how good the race is. Like it's just it's something else. I don't know. I don't know why it's cool. I don't know if it's because like I grew up going to races and it brings you back there. But man, it's pretty cool. I doubt it's really ever going to go much different. I mean, they're talking that it went 8 decibels lower than what it normally is. So I don't expect it to be much. And last year, when I was hanging out with Mike last year in Daytona, we went to the race and then we didn't finish the race. We went home before it finished because it was rained out, and then they did the last 20 laps or whatever, and we just weren't there because it was a miserable day. But we were at his balcony at his hotel out on Daytona Beach, and it was probably, I don't know, 10 to 20 miles away from the track. And you could hear it. No problem. It was so loud. So it was just pretty interesting. So I think it's going to be a long time before we ever truly see anything different in NASCAR, like, hybrid or trying to quiet the cars down, turbos and stuff. I don't think that we'll even see it in our lifetime, but who knows? It's just it's an interesting thing to talk about. So, and then I wanted to go over with you guys some rules packages before we finally get out of here. So for 2023, we got some interesting stuff that's being introduced to NASCAR Cup. You got stage breaks are going to be gone at road courses and street courses, which I think is pretty cool. The Hail Melon riding the wall is banned. I'm surprised that it took them this long to do it. I think that it's something necessary considering, the dangers of it, which makes the move even cooler. There's no more crew chief suspensions for a loose wheel, finally, and there's only a 2-week crew member suspension for a loose wheel with these wheel hub failures. So that's good. The playoff eligibility is no longer race winning driver to be in the top 30 in points. So I feel like that might be a Corey LaJoie rule. I don't know. Hopefully not. Hopefully Corey is much further. But I thought about that because I remember at Daytona last year in August, they were talking about, well, Corey's leading this race, but he's not eligible. And they said that about 500 times. So,
That bothered me.
yeah. So, the super speedways and dirt race will have the choose rule, which is good. I guess I didn't realize that it didn't have it. The first 5 races are going to have 50% larger restart zone that they're, I guess, experimenting with. So that's good, I guess. I think that it's kind of a cool gamesmanship for the leader to take off before second place. And I kind of wish there was less rules there because I feel like it's a little too stingent. You get the second place guy in trouble, but the damaged vehicle policy went to 7 minutes from 10 minutes. I don't have a whole lot of opinion on that. I don't think that's really going to change a whole lot. And the wet cut tires, the sprinkle tires, as Corey would call them, you're going to be able to use them. I guess Coliseum is over with, but they had listed it could have been used at the Coliseum, Martinsville, New Hampshire, North Wilkesboro, Phoenix, and Richmond. So that's interesting. I don't think those things are going to be successful, but I'll be interested to watch it. So I wanted to ask you guys, with all this new stuff coming in the year, do you guys think that these are good rule changes?
I'm gonna defer to Sean on this. Yeah.
I think the new rules changes that they came out with are going to be beneficial. The stage breaks, not throwing a caution at road courses. I think that's a common sense thing. I think nobody was really a big fan of that. I mean, you're throwing all strategy away. So I think that's kudos on NASCAR for making that change. I think a lot of the drivers, if not all of them, felt the same way on that. Let's see, what else did you mention there? There was a lot of changes on there. The damage vehicle policy, I don't know if there's going to be much change to that. I don't think noticeably for us fans, I don't think we're going to notice too much on that. What else was there?
Riding the wall, I know, was one.
Yeah. The hail melon. That was a once in a lifetime move. That I gotta admit, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen in NASCAR. Seeing a driver just throw it all out there to make the position. So I don't think it's a bad decision on NASCAR's part. It's a safety thing. So another good decision on them. So there was no one rule change that I thought was, bad. So I'm a fan of pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. The riding the wall, I mean, the fact that he said he did that because he did it in a PlayStation game or whatever it was. And he's like, oh yeah, I used to do it all the time. So
back in the early 2000s on those games.
Yeah. And so he's just like,
geometries weren't the greatest.
Yeah, I'll just give it a shot in real life. Well, why not? Ended up paying off. So, craziness. Unreal.
And I wanted to ask you guys, so the last question before we hop off is wanted to know what you guys thought about or what you expect for this year. What's your predictions?
I think it's going to be an outstanding year. I really do. Like I said earlier, I'm banking on Corey LaJoie winning at least one race this year. He's going to be there in Atlanta. He proved it last year. Daytona. He's always a force to be reckoned with at the super speedway track. So I think he's going to be out there. The rule change that we were mentioning earlier with, you don't have to be in the top 30 in points anymore. I say Corey LaJoie is going to be in the championship hunt this year. He's going to make it in the championship hunt, I should say. So I think it's going to be a good year. I think people figured out the car after last year. People know what to expect going into the same tracks again this year. I have to say I'm a little brokenhearted being, a native of Wisconsin, seeing how my, Elkhart Lake track got taken away for a street course of Chicago. I'm a little brokenhearted about that. So, but I think overall it's going to be an outstanding year.
I think the one thing that was so cool, at least about the Clash, was, it exposed people like me. I have ties to stock car racing, but I am by any stretch of the imagination, a diehard NASCAR fan. And I think, doing it again this year, especially here in Los Angeles, you expose so many people to something they might otherwise not have given a chance. And I'm so glad I did last year because, I mean, now I just have such a great appreciation for the sport of NASCAR. So I guess one of the things I hope and I predict in 2023 is that the sport will just continue to grow its audience. And I think that's really what they're trying to do. And so far, I mean, I'm sure there's numbers to support it. They've been successful in doing that. You've made people in Hollywood care about NASCAR racing, which traditionally in this town, it's just an afterthought.
Yeah.
Even if the numbers say that people in LA watch NASCAR racing. And I think this is LA County is a huge county. So like there's people in Santa Clarita and there's people in kind of the California rural areas and out in the valley. That's probably the bulk of the fans. Yeah, I've lived here 4 years, guys, and I just don't know any NASCAR fans like who live in the more metropolitan areas of Los Angeles. I just don't. So it's that metric is pretty wild to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, look for more like-minded people where you guys can get together.
Yeah, go out to Santa Clarita. That's right.
Hey, anytime you come back this way, let me know. I'll take you to one of the races around here.
We'll go to Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Show you right. Me and my buddies tailgate Charlotte every year. So by all means, come on out. We'll have a great time.
Say less. I'll be there. Let's go. All right. Heck yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sean and Grayson, thank you guys so much for coming on the Shoe Show and just chatting about racing. I'm super excited that we're finally able to talk about something new. So just appreciate you guys.
I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you having me back on, Josh. Grayson, it was great meeting you. I love talking about NASCAR. I love making new friends. So
sure.
I very much appreciate you guys having me back on here.
Yes, sir.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Sean and Grayson, once again, thank you so much for hanging out with me on the Shoe Show. It's really cool to get to talk to you guys, get your different perspectives, and the Shoe Show in general is cool. It's kind of a community. We get to all talk to each other, hang out, and have a conversation. So if you guys can do me a favor, if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, share, subscribe, share it on your other social media stuff. Helps me out a lot and the Shoe Show and Team Super Shoe out a ton. If you're on any of the audio podcasts, please rate and review and let everybody know that you're listening to the Shoe Show. Us little guys cheering on our little team Aspire Motorsports. Otherwise, guys, I just appreciate you hanging out with me once again, and I'll see you I guess February 17th will be the next episode. So y'all, God bless, stay safe.